The showdown between Jasmine Crockett and Clay Higgins represents a broader national struggle unfolding across the country. It's a debate over how Americans interpret history, confront inequality, and whether the nation is genuinely committed to fostering a more inclusive future. On one side are individuals like Higgins, often white, often conservative, who perceive attempts to address historical discrimination as personal attacks. They claim reverse racism. They argue that society should be colorblind, overlooking that ignoring race in a nation shaped by systemic inequality only ensures that inequities persist. On the other side are individuals like Crockett, often people of color, often progressive, who recognize that acknowledging a problem is the essential first step toward solving it. They understand that day programs are not intended to punish white people or confer unearned advantages to others. Instead, these initiatives aim to remedy centuries of exclusion that do not simply disappear on their own. This debate influences choices in corporate offices, universities, government agencies, and yes, Congress. The exchange between Crockett and Higgins brought this national discussion into sharp, undeniable focus. It revealed how hollow the anti-day argument becomes when articulated by someone with Higgins's record. As America becomes more diverse and younger generations embrace multicultural values, this tension may intensify before it resolves. Yet moments like the one in that committee room offer hope, showing that truth, preparation, and moral clarity can still pierce the noise. Jasmine Crockett did more than expose Clay Higgins's past that day. She dismantled the foundation of the entire anti-day argument. She demonstrated with historical accuracy and unwavering moral conviction that inclusion efforts cannot be equated with the real oppression that made them necessary. She illustrated why diverse representation is essential. She showed why understanding our history is critical. And she demonstrated why political figures cannot be allowed to distort and minimize words like oppression for their own purposes. Higgins's reaction, his stammering, failure to clarify his record, "you people," slip, and eventual silence, revealed the full story. It proved that when confronted with historical truth and documented actions, critics of day have no genuine defense left. All they possess are excuses, denial, and distraction. But Jasmine Crockett came prepared with something stronger, the truth. And on that November day in 2024, the truth prevailed. If this story resonated with you, like and subscribe for more defining political moments from Capitol Hill. Share this video with someone seeking clarity on what is truly at stake in the day debate. And comment below with your thoughts. Did Representative Crockett reveal the truth, or do you think she went too far? We want to hear your perspective. Join us in the next video as we continue covering the major political confrontations shaping America's future. The House Judiciary Committee hearing room fell silent the moment Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett entered. Her bright blue suit sharply contrasted with the polished wooden walls. The 42-year-old freshman representative from Texas carried little more than a slim folder and an air of quiet, steadfast confidence. Moments before, Chairman Jim Jordan had commanded the room, his booming voice echoing as he relentlessly questioned witness after witness on matters of government overreach. "We're going to get to the bottom of this today," he declared in his signature fast, sharp cadence, his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up, as usual. "The American people deserve answers about this administration's attack on our freedoms." The room was full, the atmosphere thick with tension. Republicans around him nodded vigorously while Democrats leaned back, patiently awaiting their turn. Jordan, a former wrestling coach from Ohio with 16 years in Congress, had built a reputation for aggressive questioning and unwavering loyalty to Trump. He appeared unstoppable, cornering witnesses with a barrage of rapid-fire inquiries. Yet Jasmine Crockett, a former public defender and civil rights lawyer in her first term, remained outwardly calm. As she methodically organized her papers, she cast a brief glance toward Jordan, who barely acknowledged her presence. He could not have known that the modest folder in her hands contained information poised to completely reshape the hearing, potentially leaving the seasoned chairman speechless for millions of viewers at home. This was shaping up to be far from an ordinary committee session. It was on the verge of becoming a vivid demonstration of how meticulous preparation and perfect timing could alter everything. No one in the room anticipated what was about to unfold. Jim Jordan had carefully cultivated his persona over years, establishing himself as one of Congress's most formidable figures. The 59-year-old Ohio Republican, co-founder of the influential Freedom Caucus and now leading the House Judiciary Committee, inspired apprehension among witnesses and Democratic colleagues alike. His aggressive questioning left little space for reflection, let alone complete answers. With his trademark rolled-up sleeves, jacket discarded, and intense gaze, he always appeared ready for confrontation. As one analyst noted, Jordan does not conduct hearings, he performs them. He chases moments, not explanations. These dramatic exchanges had significantly boosted his public profile, earning millions of online supporters and frequent appearances on Fox News. Today's hearing, focused on executive branch authority, was clearly designed to be another triumph for him. He had carefully selected favorable witnesses, honed his challenging lines of inquiry, and steered the discussion effortlessly. With midterm elections approaching, he knew clips from this session would likely appear in campaign ads nationwide. The American people deserve to understand how their government is being wielded. Jordan had earlier declared his gaze fixed on the cameras. Fellow Republican committee members nodded and murmured their agreement. This was Jordan at his peak, commanding, confrontational, and unyielding. Across the room, quietly observing, was Jasmine Crockett. Though relatively new to the national political stage, she was quickly establishing a reputation. A graduate of Rhodes College and the University of Houston Law Center, she had dedicated her career to public service, first as a public defender, then as a civil rights attorney, before serving in the Texas legislature and ultimately winning her congressional seat in 2022. Unlike many first-term lawmakers who maintain low profiles, Crockett had already earned respect for her thorough preparation, deep knowledge, and direct communication style. She's not chasing headlines, her chief of staff often reminded colleagues. She's focused on facts and the law. This principled approach garnered considerable respect but also made her a target. Conservative media outlets often attempted to associate her with the squad. Despite her moderate voting record, the stakes of this exchange exceeded any personal rivalry. While the hearing officially addressed executive overreach, everyone understood its true purpose, shaping the narrative for the upcoming election. Republicans aimed to portray the current administration as reckless, while Democrats defended its policies and decisions. As her allotted 5 minutes approached, Crockett reviewed her notes, meticulously one last time. In stark contrast to Jordan's theatrical style, she had spent weeks preparing, consulting constitutional experts, analyzing public records, and compiling evidence designed to dismantle many of Jordan's claims. A Democratic colleague whispered, "You ready?" "He's in rare form today." Crockett offered a slight, reassuring nod. "Don't worry," she replied. "I came prepared." The timer reset to 5 minutes, and with a barely concealed hint of impatience, the chairman announced, "The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized." What followed would rapidly become one of the most replayed congressional moments in recent memory. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," Crockett began, her voice steady and calm, a striking contrast to Jordan's usual rapid-fire pace. "I'd like to begin by clarifying some basic facts about executive orders," she continued, as this seemed central to today's discussion on overreach. Jordan leaned back, a flicker of boredom crossing his face. To him, this sounded like typical freshman tactics. Start slow, define simple terms, and squander valuable minutes. Crockett addressed one of Jordan's hand-picked witnesses, a conservative legal scholar. "Would you agree that the sheer number of executive orders issued by a president is a fair metric for measuring executive overreach?" The witness responded confidently. "Absolutely, Congresswoman. The current administration's executive orders represent an unprecedented expansion of power." Crockett nodded slowly. "Interesting. So, quantity matters." Then, abruptly, she pivoted, turning her gaze directly to Jordan. "Mr. Chairman, you've used the phrase record-breaking executive overreach no fewer than 6 times today. Is that claim primarily based on the number of orders issued?" Jordan straightened in his chair, sensing a shift. "The gentleman knows full well this administration has weaponized executive power like never before. So it is about numbers?" Crockett pressed, her tone gentle yet razor-sharp. "Among other things," Jordan retorted, his voice edged with defensiveness. "Then I'm confused," she said, opening her thin folder for the first time. "Because, according to official White House data, verified by the National Archives, this administration has issued 89 executive orders in its first 3 years." She slid a document across the table, significantly fewer than the 220 executive orders signed during the previous administration's single term. Murmurs rippled through the room. Jordan shifted uncomfortably. "The gentlewoman is cherry-picking," he snapped, his voice rising. "It's about what those orders do, not just counting them." "I appreciate the clarification," Crockett replied, completely unfazed. "So when you led this very committee under the previous administration and argued, and I quote, 'the sheer number of executive actions is proof of overreach,' were you mistaken then, or are you shifting your position now?" Palpable tension descended upon the room. Jordan's face visibly tightened as he recognized his own words being reflected back at him. "The situations are completely different," he insisted, his voice strained. This administration targets political opponents. They've weaponized federal agencies. Crockett calmly turned to another page in her folder. It's interesting that you raised targeting today, Mr. Chairman. You cited the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago as evidence of weaponization. But according to the FBI's annual report, she held up another document for everyone to see. The Bureau conducted over 1,600 similar searches last year, all following the exact same legal procedures. She turned to Mr. Bradshaw. Mr. Bradshaw, are you aware that such a search requires federal judge approval based on probable cause? The witness, caught between a rock and a hard place, glanced nervously at Jordan, who offered a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. Yes, technically, Bradshaw admitted. But this case was clearly, thank you. Crockett interjected smoothly, cutting him off. Then she fixed her gaze on Jordan once more. Mr. Chairman, you co-sponsored the Visa Amendments Act of 2008, which significantly expanded the authorities used in these types of searches. Is that correct? Jordan's irritation became glaringly obvious. The gentleman is playing political games instead of addressing real issues. He barked. The American people aren't fooled. I'm simply presenting facts. Crockett countered, her voice unwavering. Earlier, you claimed no previous president faced such intense scrutiny. But as she spoke, she raised yet another document. These congressional records show you personally supported multiple investigations into former presidents. The room hummed with heightened energy as Crockett methodically revealed document after document, each exposing contradictions in Jordan's prior statements and current arguments. With every new piece of evidence, Jordan's responses grew louder and more agitated. This is ridiculous, he finally bellowed, his voice echoing through the chamber. You're twisting everything. I'm reading your exact words, Mr. Chairman. Crockett replied smoothly, unfazed. Page 47 of the July 2016 committee transcript. Would you like me to read it aloud? Jordan attempted to interrupt, but Crockett gently yet firmly cut him off. Actually, Mr. Chairman, I still have 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining, she stated calmly. The ranking Democrat on the committee struggled to suppress a wide grin as Jordan realized he had been thoroughly outmaneuvered. Television cameras zoomed in, capturing his brief, stunned expression. The man accustomed to dominating every exchange was now undeniably on the defensive. Crockett then delivered her final, devastating point. One last question, Mr. Chairman. Today, you've repeatedly warned about unelected bureaucrats making policy decisions, but I have a memo from your office dated 3 years ago instructing agency heads to use executive discretion to advance policies without congressional approval. She slid the document across the table toward him. This appears to bear your signature. Is that correct? The room fell utterly silent. Jordan stared at the memo, then at Crockett, his face hardening with a mixture of disbelief and controlled fury. For perhaps the first time in his long congressional career, Jim Jordan was genuinely speechless. I'll take that as confirmation, Crockett said softly. As her time officially expired, the profound silence that followed lasted only a few seconds, yet in a chamber notorious for noise and crosstalk, it felt eternal. Jordan, typically quick-witted and forceful, remained frozen, eyes fixed on the document before him. A keen camera operator, sensing the moment's magnitude, zoomed in, perfectly capturing the stunned expression soon replayed across millions of screens. The gentleman's time has expired, Jordan finally stammered, his voice devoid of its usual confidence, but by then, the damage was done, the impact irreversible. Reporters immediately began furiously typing, their phones buzzing as short clips of the exchange spread virally online. Within minutes, captions like, Jordan speechless by freshman rep, and Crockett brings receipts, circulated across social media. Jordan tried to regain control, calling on a Republican ally for the next round, but the dramatic shift in energy was palpable. His colleague attempted to pivot back to criticisms of the administration but cast nervous glances at the documents still on the table. Mr. Chairman, the ranking Democrat chimed in, barely concealing satisfaction. I'd like to enter Congresswoman Crockett's documents into the official record. Jordan hesitated, then grumbled without objection, unable to cite any rule to block it. Outside the hearing room, the exchange was already exploding across media platforms. Major outlets interrupted programming to air the confrontation. An extraordinary moment on Capitol Hill today, one anchor reported, noting that Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan appeared caught in a glaring contradiction. Another commentator hailed the moment as a masterclass in methodical questioning from an unexpected source. Social media platforms exploded with reactions. Hashtags like #CrockettReceipts and #JordanSpeechless quickly trended. A mere 10-second clip of Jordan's stunned expression garnered over 2 million TikTok views within an hour. One commentator tweeted, "Did we just witness the Jim Jordan equivalent of Mike Tyson getting knocked out by Buster Douglas?" A reference to one of boxing's most shocking upsets. Even some conservative analysts acknowledged Crockett's undeniable precision. "Whatever your politics, that was a tactical masterclass," a right-leaning legal expert conceded on television. "She came incredibly prepared and executed perfectly." As the hearing limped onward, Jordan visibly struggled to regain momentum. His questions lost their usual sharpness, his tone its commanding edge. Each time he asserted that something unprecedented had occurred, eyes instinctively drifted toward Crockett, silently daring her to produce another document to refute him. When Jordan finally concluded the hearing, ending 30 minutes early, the narrative had irreversibly flipped. What was intended as a showcase for alleged executive overreach instead exposed deep inconsistencies in Jordan's public record. In the hallway, a throng of reporters swarmed Crockett as she returned to her office. "Congresswoman, did you expect Chairman Jordan to be left speechless?" one journalist called out. Crockett paused thoughtfully. "I wasn't aiming for a viral moment," she said. "I was aiming for clarity. When public officials shift principles depending on who is in power, the American people deserve to know." "Were you nervous confronting such a powerful chairman?" another reporter asked. Crockett offered a faint, knowing smile. "Facts don't get nervous," she replied simply. "And neither do I when I have the facts on my side." As she walked through the bustling corridors, her phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, supporters, and even a few impressed celebrities. A message from her chief of staff flashed. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox all want interviews. The speaker added, "Your follower count is up 200,000 and climbing." Meanwhile, back inside the hearing room, Jordan remained seated long after most members departed, sifting through papers with aides who spoke in hushed, hurried tones. His face remained tight as he watched replays of the exchange on a staffer's phone. The chairman, who had entered with predatory confidence, now seemed more like prey. Caught in a blinding spotlight, the showdown between Jordan and Crockett proved to be far more than another dramatic Capitol Hill moment. Within hours, it became clear this exchange would profoundly shape both lawmakers' futures, influence party messaging, and reverberate through the political atmosphere leading into the midterms. By that evening, the confrontation dominated as the top story across major networks. Analysts dissected the clash frame by frame, contrasting Jordan's fiery theatrical style with Crockett's calm, disciplined approach. "What we witnessed today was the sheer force of preparation," remarked a senior congressional journalist. Jordan, renowned for aggressive questioning, encountered someone who anticipated his own tactics. Crockett had studied his record inside and out, even inside the Republican cloakroom. The mood was distinctly heavy. Jordan's allies huddled together, urgently strategizing on how to contain the escalating fallout. Some urged him to release a clarifying statement immediately, while others argued any response would prolong the story. "Just wait," advised a veteran Republican. "Something else will take over the headlines tomorrow." By morning, it was clear the story had undeniable staying power. Newspapers nationwide displayed nearly identical headlines. "Freshman rep leaves Jordan speechless," often paired with split-screen images juxtaposing his confident opening with his shocked conclusion. The White House subtly capitalized, launching a jab during a press briefing about consistent principles. Though Jordan's name wasn't mentioned, the reference was unmistakable. Conservative media initially tried to ignore the exchange, but as clips spread uncontrollably, they shifted into defense mode. "Jordan was ambushed with out-of-context quotes," one host said. Another lamented, "The radical left is celebrating theatrics over substance." However, these defenses quickly crumbled. Crockett's questions were precise, and the documents she presented irrefutably authentic. By noon, independent fact-checkers confirmed every quote and memo she cited was accurate. Jordan remained uncharacteristically silent. He canceled a scheduled Fox News appearance and issued only a brief written statement. "Yesterday's hearing was about administration overreach, not political stunts. Americans deserve better than partisan distractions." The response was lambasted for vagueness and for sidestepping the contradictions revealed during the hearing. For Crockett, the aftermath brought an avalanche of attention. Her social media following tripled overnight. Major networks, podcasts, and newspapers vied for interviews. Democratic leaders quietly recognized a burgeoning star, discussing more prominent committee roles and speaking slots. "I never expected all of this," Crockett admitted in her first interview after the hearing. "I was simply doing my job, asking fact-based questions and holding powerful people accountable, regardless of party." Her grounded message resonated with viewers fatigued by relentless partisan bickering. Clips of her interview spread almost as widely as the confrontation itself. Political experts noted Crockett had achieved something rare in contemporary politics. She highlighted an opponent's inconsistencies without personal attacks. She never called Jordan a hypocrite, a communications scholar explained. She simply presented his own words and actions side by side, letting the public draw conclusions. That approach bypasses typical defensive instincts. The ripple effect of that morning's exchange extended far beyond the two lawmakers. Democratic candidates quickly incorporated hearing clips into campaign ads, presenting themselves as calm, evidence-driven truth-tellers rather than aggressive partisan warriors. Republican strategists, on the other hand, began to worry privately. One confided to a reporter, "We've lost the argument on consistency. It's incredibly difficult to accuse the other side of being power-hungry when our own words are being used against us." Within a single week, the exchange had accumulated over 50 million views across all digital platforms. Late-night comedy shows wasted no time producing reenactments, with one host comically acting out Jordan sinking lower and lower in his chair as Crockett unveiled document after document, even quipping, "And here's a note you wrote back in 3rd grade saying girls should be class president." Two torrents of uproarious laughter. Yet beyond the humor, serious experts began to view the event with significant gravity. Political scholars started reviewing the hearing as a potential turning point in the mechanics of congressional oversight. A government professor explained that for years these hearings had devolved into little more than political theater, plenty of grand speeches, but very little genuine questioning. But Crockett, he observed, showed what happens when someone returns to the fundamental principles: solid preparation, targeted questions, and allowing official records to speak far louder than raw emotion. Jordan eventually reverted to his trademark confrontational style. However, analysts observed a subtle yet distinct change in his demeanor. He became notably more hesitant to make sweeping historical claims without meticulously checking his notes. Furthermore, during questioning by Democrats, especially from Crockett or anyone employing her methodical approach, he proceeded with a newly acquired palpable caution. Crockett, conversely, leveraged her rapidly growing platform with remarkable wisdom. Rather than basking in her newfound viral fame, she consistently redirected attention toward the core policy issues that had initially propelled her into public service. In interviews, whenever hosts attempted to frame her moment as destroying or embarrassing Jordan, she skillfully steered the conversation back to vital topics like healthcare, economic opportunity, and protecting voting rights. "I didn't run for Congress to chase viral clips," she stated on a weekend news show. "I ran to solve real problems. Sometimes that means clearing away misinformation with facts. But that's only the beginning." 3 months after the hearing, a national poll unveiled a truly stunning result. Crockett's name recognition had skyrocketed by an astonishing 57 percentage points. Even more surprising were the descriptors voters spontaneously used for her: prepared, smart, and fact-based, qualities rarely attributed to politicians. In an era of intense political polarization, the long-term consequences of that day became powerfully evident during the subsequent midterm campaigns. Democratic strategists nationwide enthusiastically adopted what they termed the Crockett method, prioritizing calm, evidence-driven messaging over reactive emotional attacks. Republican candidates, meanwhile, abruptly found themselves vulnerable as their own past statements and voting records were increasingly highlighted in debates and campaign advertisements. One particularly memorable debate moment unfolded in a swing district where a Republican incumbent accused his Democratic opponent of misrepresenting his record. She calmly responded, "These are your exact words directly from the congressional record." The crowd erupted, clearly recognizing the profound influence of Crockett's strategy. Even Jordan himself felt the seismic shift. His traditionally safe district became unexpectedly competitive. While he ultimately retained his seat, his margin of victory shrank sharply. Post-election analyses specifically cited the viral hearing as a significant factor in the diminished enthusiasm among his base. Crockett, conversely, sailed to a commanding re-election victory and secured a coveted spot on the prestigious Ways and Means Committee. An extraordinary achievement for a second-term lawmaker, pundits swiftly began speculating about her future, with some even venturing to suggest she could one day become the first black woman to serve as Speaker of the House. A year after the exchange, the moment was formally included in a political science textbook as a case study in effective congressional oversight, describing Jordan and Crockett as potent symbols of two fundamentally different strategies for communication in the digital age.